Hi, everybody. So, I wanted to talk to you today about Act One of the three-act play A Doll's House. So, if you remember back to our notes about modern drama, you might remember that in a three-act play such as this, that Act One is all about exposition, getting to know the characters, getting to know the conflict, getting to know the basic plot. And this play does exactly that. And if you remember also from our notes on modern drama, I mentioned about Henrik Ibsen, who's the author of this play. And I said that he was basically like the father of what we would call modern drama today. And his big thing was that he didn't want his plays to center around, these larger than life heroes. He wanted his plays to center around everyday people with everyday problems. Now, these problems might be embellished, but they're people that we can relate to with problems that we can relate to. And more than just that, these people, these conflicts in his plays center around societal issues at large. His plays aren't about just showing you this character in their lives and then that's it, but showing you this character and this character and basically having these characters be representations for what's ailing our society as a whole. And so this play does just that. And in this play, you're going to see several major themes, and chief among those are things like the role of woman. What is the role of a woman in a family setting? What is the role of a woman in a societal setting? What obligations do people have to themselves? What obligations do people have to their families? Um, what obligations do people have to one another, to their children, to their spouses? And then you also have the other theme in here is the unreliability of appearances. People and things aren't always what they seem. And so these are kind of the major themes that are at play in this, play. So let's talk about Act One, if we will. And remember, if you, again, remember back to our modern drama notes, I said objects that people interact with are important. Characters are not used in a play like this unnecessarily. So if you meet a character, they're significant. If the characters interact with something, it's significant. So pay attention to those things as we talk. So here's Act One. And again, remember, Act One is all about exposition. So in Act One, we learn that it's Christmas Eve. The play is going to take place in the living room of this middle class home of the Helmers, Nora and Torvald Helmer. And the bulk of this play, in fact, if I'm not mistaken, the entirety of the play takes place basically in the living room. So as far as set decoration and things, if you're a stage manager, pretty easy to set up. Anyway, it's a well-furnished living room. This family, even though they're middle class, you might even say that they might be upper middle class. They're doing well for themselves. They have a nanny that lives with them. And so, again, in walks the main character. Her name is Nora. And Nora, she has a bunch of packages. Again, remember, it's Christmas Eve. And so she walks in with a bunch of packages, assuming presents for family. And she's clearly been shopping. Her husband comes in, he's been in the study. He's going to spend a lot of time in the study. You're going to learn that he's very much married to his job. And he's going to call her some very patronizing names that many of you will probably get really upset at him about. You might want to reach into the play and just smack him about because he's very patronizing, very misogynistic, which is not uncommon for this time period. So he comes in, calls her a bunch of little pet names that are very obnoxious and annoying, and chides her for spending so much money. And he reminds her that money is tight with them. And she's like, whatever, you just got a promotion. You're now the bank manager. We can relax a little bit with our purses. And he's like, well, that may be, but I still want to, watch the money that we spend. And so you get this struggle right off the bat, this conflict between them right off the bat, that she's kind of loose with their money and he's a penny pincher. He's very patronizing, and she's very willing to play the role of the doting housewife at first glance. Now remember, appearances can be deceiving in this play. So, as they're talking, a few more guests arrive. Dr. Rank, who's a family friend and physician, he walks into the study with Torvald and they discuss whatever. And this woman comes in, and her name is Christine. Now, Christine raises some eyebrows with Nora because Nora and Christine have a past. They used to be really close friends, but they had a falling out, and Christine and Nora haven't spoken to each other in about a decade. And so, as you can imagine, Nora's kind of surprised to see Christine just suddenly on her doorstep. We learn not only about what's been going on with these two characters, but we also learn some personality traits of these two characters. As the two talk, they have very troubling pasts. As it turns out, Christine's husband died and basically left her a widow and left her with nothing. She has nothing. No kids, no money, nothing. And so we learn that she's basically there to beg for a job. We also learn that she's been taking care of her mother and I believe her brothers. And so we learn that Miss Lind, Christine, is she ain't too proud to beg, as the song says. And so she's begging for a job. And we also learn that she takes her responsibility of caring for others very seriously. On the flip side, Nora, who, by the way, has been constantly interrupting Christine as she's telling these tales of woe to talk about herself. You know, Nora's like, oh, yeah, me too. I've been also dealing with some stuff. And Nora does have her own secrets. But here's the thing. We learn that Nora is kind of full of herself, honestly. Not really endearing herself to the audience. But we learn that Nora has been keeping secrets from her penny-pinching husband. As it turns out, a few years ago, Torvald, the penny-pinching husband, got really sick, and he needed basically a change in climate. They live up northern Europe, and so it's very cold in the winter and whatnot, and so she basically took them down to Italy to get some fresh air, to get a change of climate, and to get him back to health, nurse him back to health. Well, she did that, and he got healthy again. But it cost them a lot of money. Now, here's the thing. Where'd that money come from? We're going to learn about that later on in Act 1. So, people leave, and I'm not going to bore you with the specifics, but basically, Nora promises Christine that she will talk to Torvald and see if she can get Christine a job at the bank. So they leave. Then another guy comes in and he immediately rubs everybody the wrong way. His name is Krogstad. I mean, what a name, right? And so Krogstad, just everybody hates him. Dr. Rank is like, ugh. And Christine looks at him like she knows something that she's not saying. Nora's like, oh God, him. Like she knows something that she's not saying. And even Torvald's like, oh God, him. Like everybody seems to know this guy. Nobody likes him. He goes in, talks to Torvald. Storms back out a little while later. Nora's playing with her kids. Everybody's gone. Miss Lind leaves. She's all happy. Dr. Rank leaves. He's always happy, so he's happy he leaves. Torvald goes back into his study. Nora's left alone with the kids. Except she's not. Krogstad is still there. Now, this is very suspicious and very inappropriate, especially for this time period. And he corners her, and he's like, look, you and I need to talk. And she plays dumb. She's like, I don't know what you're talking about. He says, yeah, you do. And we learn at the end of Act 1 that the way that she got the money to travel to Italy to heal Torvald was by taking out a loan. Now, that in itself, not a big deal. but she committed a felony. Allegedly, and as far as Torvald knows, that loan was signed by her father. But it wasn't. Her father actually died before the loan could be signed, and Nora forged his signature. She committed fraud. Krogstad knows this. He's the one handling the loan, and he says basically, if you don't, your husband just fired me. That's what our meeting was about. If you don't get me my job back with him, I'm going to reveal this bit of information. And she's like, what do I care? Go ahead. Who cares? We'll get through it. And he's like, you don't understand. You committed fraud. Your husband's definitely going to get fired from the bank, and you, and possibly him, are going to prison. And she's like, oh my God. And so we get a little bit of knowledge that maybe she's not all that wise in the ways of finances, which, some people might point and say that that's, an indication that she's not all that smart. I don't think so. Consider the time period. How would she have known about finance law? She wouldn't. It's not like they let women run the banks. So how else would she have known? So her ignorance in this matter is very understandable. And so we're left at the end of Act 1 with Nora basically saying, I will talk to my husband, I will fix this, I will get you your job back. And Krogstad leaves. And then she talks to Torvald, and she tries to butter him up as best she can. And she's like, can't you give Krogstad another chance? And Torvald's like, absolutely not. He makes me sick to my stomach. I don't want to talk about it one more second. He and I are done. I don't want to hear his name any more in this house. And he basically puts the nail on that coffin. So we end Act 1 knowing quite a bit about the characters and leaving on a cliffhanger with the conflict in the plot.